Yes, indeed. We're back aboard on Valentine's night. Will you accept this rose? Not just Jason Powers, but the audience. Thank you for being with us here on College Basketball Coast to Coast and the live show as we rock along, heading to the best month of all, the month of March. I am merely TJ Rives. Hello to my wingman, Jason Powers. He's here with me in the Tampa Bay area. Do we have a busy recap show to go over? First of all, how are you? I have no idea on your social plans from earlier in the night. Flowers for mom, significant other, whatever. Mrs. Rives and I kind of had a low-key night. Valentine's weekend. We've been married almost 30 years. We've done like 33 or 34 Valentines together. So it's kind of low-key tonight. Anyway, Jason, hope you're well. Hope the audience is well. And we got a lot of college basketball to go over.
Romance is in the air all over the place, but apparently not in the Providence Civic Center.
No, that's a good line and a good segue. I do not think that there were chocolates and a holiday card, a Valentine's card, awaiting St. John's in the locker room after the St. John's Providence game. Do you want a photo to kind of sum things up on where the trouble started with Providence fouling one of the St. John's players? That pretty well sums it up if you're watching us on video. I know the podcast audience can't see Powell, the player for Providence, fouling Bryce Hopkins, a former Providence player that transferred to St. John's. But that is straight out of Vince McMahon's WWE, is it not, Jason Powers, on the description?
That is lamb beer on Larry Bird back in the day.
Yes. And it started a fracas. Yes, so love was not in the air there. That is for sure. So we're going to get to that. We're going to get to all of the action from the day. Want to tell you straight ahead, I did an interview a little earlier in the evening with Dan Leach, who's with us in Detroit all the time, based out of the Detroit market, Big Ten guy, Michigan guy, WHMI radio. Dan's been a radio and media personality in Detroit for over 20 years. I'll get his insight on Michigan thumping UCLA. We'll do that in a bit. Later on in the program, Deshaun Tate is here. Mr. Tate's Take Hoops. He's out of Atlanta. I love his insight on all things college basketball, but he's in and around, Jason, the ACC, as well as the Big Ten. He's a Michigan State guy. He is smarting after what Wisconsin did to his Spartans, and plus he's got to hear all about how good Michigan is, twofold. So Deshaun will be here, and it would not be a college basketball coast-to-coast recap without checking in the West with Matt Zimick. He will be with us, our Western insider. Matt writes for the USA Today Trojans Wire website, as well as the UCLA Bruins USA Today website, the UCLA Wire. They took it on the chin from Michigan, but I want to talk to him. I'm well aware that Utah State took care of my Memphis Tigers tonight. I was trying to tell you I thought it could get ugly. It did. They ended up losing by 20 tonight. Utah State looks really good. Arizona takes a loss tonight to Texas Tech. So Matt will have some of the Western field. We got Gonzaga just getting underway with Santa Clara.
Huge game
as we do the show tonight. So Matt will have insight on all of that later on in the program. Again, if you're on pod, come find the video via YouTube, via Facebook, via the College Basketball Coast to Coast Twitter handle, CBB Coast to Coast with the number 2. If you're on video, come find us on podcast, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. There's also a tune-in channel for college basketball coast to coast. I'll put the plug up there.
Give a shout out. I just got a text message. A buddy of mine, Tony in Dallas, just subscribed and is listening right now.
Tony, thank you.
My guy, Tony in Dallas.
Shout out to Tony. He is part of the growing crusade here to influence those that love watching college basketball along with us. We do this on Saturday nights. Our buddy Vince Ferrara is watching us in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm aware of that. Tennessee and LSU from earlier tonight. We'll talk some SEC. So we've got a lot on the plate. We've got guests coming up. Jason, give me an overall thought or two. We saw, again, Michigan. Their monster season obviously is continuing with a blowout win over UCLA today. I know Dan Leach will talk more about that in a moment, but Dusty May's team, what did I see? 14th win by 30 or more.
10.
It's ridiculous.
Okay. All right.
Maybe it's 10. Maybe it's 10 by 30 or more. I believe it's 16 or 17 wins by double figures now, playing in the Big Ten. It's crazy.
And a lot of these 30-plus pointers aren't against Alcorn State. They're against good, legit teams. So Michigan's the story. And right up the road from where we're at, the Florida Gators are coming, boys and girls.
Very
They
true.
put it together. They are playing great. They took care of Kentucky today. Didn't allow another double-digit lead to evaporate. They jumped on Kentucky early and put that game away, and keeping the Gators with all that experience.
There you go.
Yep, all that experience.
You got Thomas Houck, who's coming on as a scorer. Condon, Chinwelu, the big man.
Yep.
Those guys are all from the national title team.
Yeah.
So give credit where it's due on what they've done. The guard play has been better, and they appear to be the best team in the SEC. I don't know that they're going to end up winning the SEC tournament. Anything can happen on the neutral floor. When they go to the SEC tournament, Arkansas is in that mix. So is Tennessee. So is Kentucky, Alabama, a couple of others, probably Vanderbilt, Texas A&M. It can maybe give them trouble. But then again, Florida's won at A&M. They've won at Vanderbilt. They've beaten Tennessee. They've beaten Kentucky.
Beaten Bama. Beat Bama. Yep. I mean, again, if Florida doesn't win the SEC tournament, they're going to be probably a 3 seed now. They're probably on the 3 line right now. Could they get to the 2 line if they were to win out and win the tournament? Absolutely. But I think they're solidly on the 3 line right now.
All right, so give Florida credit, give Iowa State credit as well as we begin the show tonight. Huge bounce back win for them. They lost midweek to TCU on the road in the Big 12. Kansas off the win over Arizona, handing Arizona their first loss. And Iowa State was tremendous from about midway through the first half all the way through, including the 3-point shots, etc. A little Hilton magic at the Hilton Coliseum in Ames. Iowa State, big win for them here on this Saturday.
They are excellent at home. I think I heard a stat. They're plus 19 point differential at home at Hilton Coliseum. Always a tricky little place to play. Again, they are really good at home. TJ, what's his name?
Otzenberger, yes.
Yep. He's done a great job taking over that, revitalizing that program a little bit. And again, they're going to be a tough out. Again, they're a team under the radar. They've been in the top 10 of the country most of the year. A team I saw play really well tonight that I thought I was going to wager on it, didn't end up doing it. Purdue played really well. What a week for Purdue. Win at Nebraska, blow a big lead, win in overtime. Then they go up to Iowa City and take care of business. So that's a really good two-game road trip for Matt Painter and company. And again, that's another team, a lot of experience. I know Edie's not there, but Lawyer, Braden Smith, and some other guys that were on that national runner-up team a couple years ago are still there. So keep an eye on the
Trey Kaufman-Wren, a veteran low post player. They got Clough, the transfer, big body underneath. Purdue's got a lot of scorers too. And again, they destroyed Iowa today at Iowa. And by the way, Michigan is on deck. Dan Leach will talk more about that in a few moments. Again, thank you for finding us. We're going over some of the big moments from earlier today. By the way, UConn tonight had to survive against Georgetown, a game that was a 1-score game. UConn led by as many as 10 in the second half. It was a 1-score game, basically the whole final 2 minutes. UConn hit some free throws, hung on to beat Georgetown at home. That makes them 15-1 in the Big East. Would you say right now that yes, Michigan, yes, still Arizona, yes, Duke, then what do we do with the other number 1 seed? Is it UConn? Is it Florida?
Houston.
Is it Houston? What say you on how we determine that for right now?
Probably will be determined as we get to the conference tournament. I guess if one of these teams goes on a run and wins 5-6 in a row at the end and the conference tournament, that will probably be the determining factor of who gets that 4th number 1. Maybe injury if somebody were to get hurt. But again, you've got the right teams. I think whoever finishes the strongest down the stretch and wins that conference tournament is probably going to be that 4th number 1.
We love all of this here on College Basketball Coast to Coast as we go along here on this Saturday. We shouldn't overlook Duke. We're going to talk more about them in a few moments as well. With the Boozers, Cam Boozer, another 18-point, had 18 points in the game. That's 17 times he scored at least 18 points in a game this season. I believe it's 17 straight games for him. Duke never really challenged by Clemson. Clemson took the loss earlier in the week to Virginia Tech badly at home. Duke won at Pittsburgh. It was kind of an ugly game midweek, but they were never really threatened in the second half. And Shire's team looks the Final Four part. Isaiah Evans, outside shooting,
Center,
defense. Say some more.
the Mbonga kid at center was back today. He's a defensive body. Here, you want a stat, TJ Rives?
Sure.
Last 31 years, Clemson going to Cameron. 0-24 in the last 31 years.
Over to this point, and give credit where it is due. Here
Carolina loses early midweek to Miami, who's actually a sneaky, pretty decent little team there with Jay Lucas, the former Duke assistant, now the coach. So again, we'll talk to Deshaun about Miami and Carolina a little bit. I'm sure.
So Miami won today at NC State. It was a Houdini game for them. We'll talk more about that. Carolina, though, got the bad news that Caleb Wilson, the outstanding forward, a projected top 5 NBA draft pick, broke his left hand, his non-shooting hand. It's believed he injured it in the Duke game. He tried to play through it in the Miami game. They then had it checked, had it x-rayed. It's a broken hand. He's out at least short term, maybe could be back in March. Then again, he's going to have people saying to him, don't risk it. You're going to the NBA. Don't risk it. So who knows? But they won today without him. That's a significant injury. And if Caleb Wilson is not there come March, the selection committee looks at North Carolina differently. Do they not?
They do. I think you will probably see him rest probably the 3 weeks. They may try to play him in that ACC tournament to see what he can do. Again, I know it's his left hand. Could he play in the tournament with an injured left hand? He's a righty, probably. Again, we'll see what kind of pain tolerance, what kind of injury it is. But you won't see him again until the ACC tournament at the earliest. They might try it out, see how he does. If he can't play, then you make a decision. But yeah, the tournament committee will definitely, that could affect Carolina from a couple of line perspective on the seed lines if he's not available come round 1.
All right. Again, we got a lot to get to here on the program. Why don't we do this? Let's go back to what Michigan was able to do earlier today with UCLA. Let's get some insight on them. Just how good are the Wolverines of Dusty May with all the transfers? What are the challenges? How about Michigan's short-term schedule has Purdue and then Duke next Saturday in a neutral floor game in Washington, D.C. Hello. Let's talk about all of that with a guest right now here on the program who was on scene. He was there at the Chrysler Arena today for Michigan walloping UCLA. That is Dan Leach. Love Dan's insight, longtime Detroit media personality. Let's go to our conversation a little earlier in the evening as we continue on college basketball coast to coast. All right, he was there at Chrysler Arena. Dan Leach, WHMI, the Squatch, DTM. All right. It almost is becoming redundant. We know they're good. How good is Michigan? How good did they look in person today again?
Well, TJ, first, any time I get to spend with you is like being in heaven on earth. So that's the first thing.
You say that because you were saying just before I hit record, I got to get out of here. I got a hot date for Valentine's Day.
Hey,
so I'm like the appetizer, and then you get on to the rest of the evening.
It's a great appetizer. We're always happy to spend some time with you. You're one of my all-time faves. But listen, it's a great question that I know a lot of national people like you, college basketball fans, are asking. Obviously, it's been a different kind of angle here in Michigan because you've got a lot of really jealous, insecure Spartan fans that want to kind of rip everything that Michigan does because they wish they could be that. And then you've got Michigan fans that obviously had a lot of trepidation after the Juwan Howard era. Dusty May comes in. Last year obviously was solid, but this year has been otherworldly. The bottom line is this: Michigan is the best team in the country. Does that mean that they're going to stay the best team in the country, that Duke can't be that Arizona can't be that, next Tuesday or the following Thursday? Sure. But the bottom line is, when you look up and down that roster, when you look up and down this season, even with the little kind of, 4 or 5 game spell where Michigan didn't look like they did for, the earlier part of the year. But TJ, how many teams can look like that are beating top 15 teams by 40 in 3 consecutive games? So
right.
The bottom line is this: This, in my opinion, nothing to do with me being a longtime Michigan fan. I cover Michigan, Michigan State, all the teams, so I'm not a homer. I've obviously, been able to cover this for years. So, I mean, I'm a fan, but I'm very fair. I did not think Michigan was great during the Juwan Hart era. I didn't, pump them up to be better than they were. This is the best team in the country. Whether it's Lendenborg, taking over a game, whether it's Mo Johnson Jr. shooting from downtown and creating, near the basket, whether it's Mara, whether it's, Cadeau. This is a team inside and out that can smother you. I mean, UCLA is not a great team, but they're pretty good. Michigan won by 31.
They were in the
31.
game. They were in the game, and Michigan made 10 field goals in a row and dusted them like they've dusted everybody else.
Scored 46-18 in the second half.
Correct.
I mean, that's
correct.
That's just to further.
How much do you credit Dusty May, because you're great to speak to this, that he put a lot of different pieces together this year? Lindeborg from UAB, Mara from UCLA, ironically, Cadeau from North Carolina. He's mixing and matching. How much credit does he get for putting this together in 1 year to be this good?
A ton. By the way, just really one quick, cherry on top. As far as what Michigan does great, you mentioned that UCLA was in the game. They smother teams in the moments that matter most. That's why, another reason why they're one of the best teams in the country. Dusty May deserves, I mean, listen, he's one man, but you're one man when you lead a team. So he deserves 100% of the credit. He put this team together. It's been a couple of years. And obviously, people will say, I saw a graphic. I'm sure you saw this too, TJ, floating around on social media. The top 10 teams and how many people, players in their top 4 minutes were there last year, and very few of any of them. That's college basketball. You can't hate the player, hate the game. Or reverse that, scratch that, switch it around, Willie Walker style.
All the above, whatever you want to do.
So that's where we're at. So get over that. NIL and everything.
Arizona put their, to your point, Arizona put their whole team together this year. Duke put their whole team together this year. UConn has basically rebuilt a team around 2 or 3 players this year. So yes, everybody at the top basically has to rebuild to some extent. But he's really rebuilt with this team.
Adapt or die. And Dusty May, obviously, you saw what he did at FAU. You see the kind of coach he is, but you've got to be able to put together. It's like people didn't want to give Phil Jackson credit sometimes because obviously Kobe, Shaq, all those amazing Lakers when they won the 5 titles. You've got to manage the egos. You've got to be able to scheme things. You've got to be able to know what to do when UCLA is in the game, kind of. They were never really, they never were, but you made a great point. They were in the game. They were in contact, and then smothering a team. They did it against Michigan State late. They've done it against so many teams this year. They obviously are 24-1. They only didn't do it against one team. When you've got a guy like Dusty May, especially when you're getting close to the tournament where it's one and done, and it's all about matchups, it's all about these guys trusting each other, playing for one another. That's what has me so excited for the first time in several years for Michigan. They probably should have won a title with Trey Burke and Jim, and Bayline, but it didn't happen. I'd be shocked if Michigan, and it's very tough to do it, but I'd be shocked if not this year or the next few years, Michigan doesn't finally win that first title since 1989 with the Fab Five, because of what Dusty May has been able to put together as far as the team goes, the inside-out play, the trust of each other, and what he does in-game management style when things are getting tight and Michigan's got to go on a run, like you mentioned, the 10 straight baskets. It has been a joy to watch, and it really is getting so many people fired up that have been long-time suffering Michigan basketball fans. Obviously, a lot of football fans, we know that. They won the national title. But there's a lot of diehard basketball fans, TJ, that have wanted this team to finally get that second title in almost 40-something years. For so long, it seems like it's within reach.
All right, so real quick, because I don't want your significant other, your date, buzzing your Apple Watch saying, where are you on this Valentine's night? Oh, by the way, Purdue is the next opponent coming Tuesday. And then hello, Duke, on next weekend. Are we looking like at a possible Big Ten championship game as the tee up for a potential Final Four type matchup with Duke? This is going to be quite a week for Michigan as we look ahead real quick.
TJ, I'll tell you this. Not that I knew they were playing Duke, but I had almost forgotten that it was coming up. I'm like, wait a minute. Michigan's playing Duke in D.C. 2 versus 4, 1 versus 3, whatever it ends up being with the rankings. And then before that, they've got a top 15 matchup against a very good Purdue team. I don't know if Michigan or even any Big Ten team in recent years has had a 1 week schedule with a team in basically the fringe of the top 10 and a team in the top 5 back to back, and one of them a non-conference game in late February. It's insane. But to me, this is just another way for Michigan to test themselves. Obviously, you lose one of those games, two of those games, obviously you don't want to. It doesn't really hurt you. But I think that this is what Michigan wants. They want to be tested. Dusty May wants these guys to show exactly how good they are night in, night out, whether they're playing Minnesota or they're playing top 5 Duke. And I can't wait to see these two games. Obviously, tough on the road at Purdue. Michigan doesn't have a great track record there. Obviously, Dusty May is a new guy, so we'll see how that goes. And then obviously a neutral site when they play Duke in D.C. On Saturday. It's going to be a hell of a week. And imagine if Michigan goes 2-0, if they win both those games and look good doing it. I don't even care if they win by 1 point. It's looking good winning either of those games on the road to Purdue or the neutral site against Duke. That's just going to show you further this is the overall number 1 seed, and it's going to be very, very tough to beat them in a one and done situation.
Hey,
no matter who you are.
Sure. The rest of the Big Ten is obviously top heavy, loaded. We saw Nebraska played very well at Michigan.
Yep.
Led the whole way, but Michigan won the game. They're right in there. Illinois has had some wins, but Illinois has taken a couple of narrow losses, including one to Wisconsin. Wisconsin coming on. You got Michigan State. You got Purdue that we just talked about. How strong is this Big Ten at the top? Are we talking about a Big Ten that could have 4 or 5 teams, potentially Elite 8, Final 4 contenders? You buy that real quick?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's the way it's. I mean, listen, the ACC is amazing. Obviously, got great teams in the Big 12 as well. But when you look at Michigan, you obviously mentioned what Wisconsin did to Michigan State. The Spartans are still going to be around with Tom Izzo. Nebraska has shown that they can hang. They're definitely a legit top 10 team. Purdue, I think 5 in the Elite 8 is would be insane, but it's definitely doable. And very rarely, as you well know, covering college basketball at the high level you do, you could barely say that. Maybe back like 10, 15 years ago with the ACC.
Well, the premise was 4 or 5 of them could be in the Elite 8.
Absolutely.
And probably 3 or 4, you can make the argument, could be in the Final 4, 2 or 3 of them with Michigan. You can make that argument. It's that tough.
I think Michigan's going to have 2. I think the Big Ten's going to have 2 in the Final 4. I mean, 5 in the Elite 8 would be amazing. 4 in the Elite 8 is kind of where I'm at right now. Wow. But obviously, you'll see what some of these teams do. The Spartans, the Cornhuskers, without a lot of experience, closer to tournament time. See what they do in the Big Ten tournament. But I think 2 in the Final 4 for the Elite 8. That's where I'm at right now. But 5 is not crazy at all. To say that that's an actual realistic possibility shows you the power of the conference and just how good Michigan, Illinois, Purdue, and some of those others you mentioned are.
I love this man's insight. WHMI Radio, the Squatch Picks. Plug the Squatch Picks because you've been killing it. Football, college basketball, even the golf. You're a big golf guy like I am with the Squatch Picks. Plug away here on College Basketball Coast to Coast.
DTMSquatchPicks.club. Great, half off deals right now. I got my man going in golf this weekend with Akshay Bhatia. But also, TJ, I know not everyone listening is local, but why not just vote for the Squatch? I was honored to be nominated for the Broadcaster of the Year for the Hour Detroit magazine with some of my heroes.
Wow.
Like Dan Miller, who calls the Lions football. I interned for Dan Miller. Mike Stone has been doing it for 40 years. So Hour Detroit magazine, vote for the Squatch. I'm in it.
Go vote for the Squatch, who does great play-by-play work and great broadcasting work with WHMI. I love your insight in Detroit. Let me bother you again around Big Ten tournament time, etc., NCAA tournament. Go have fun and be safe on Valentine's Day, my friend.
Well, it was very nice that you offered to pay for the dinner. So
we'll pick up the tab. We'll get you a little dessert. We'll pick up the tab. We'll do what we have to do. Thank you, Dan Leach.
My pleasure and honor. Always happy to talk with you whenever you need it.
Love that from earlier in the evening. Lots of Big Ten talk. There from
that raspy voice that the Squatch man has.
Love the Squatch. The Squatch is something else. Piece of work for sure. TJ Rives, Jason Powers with you live on this Saturday. By the way, I don't know if it's a little wonky on Twitter X tonight, but we shared the show out there. We're on as well on Facebook, on YouTube. You're hearing us later on podcast. However you're consuming the show, it's also a show replaying on TuneIn, streaming on the College Basketball Coast to Coast channel. Thank you for finding us tonight. We're going over all of the different college hoops from today. Deshaun Tate is on deck in a few moments. Mr. Tate's Take Hoops will be joining us. He's going to talk more about Duke rolling. He'll have the other side. He'll present the items for the defense in the argument against Michigan. and everybody else for the Big Ten. Deshaun will do that in a little bit. Matt Zimick later in the show talking Western basketball as we do this live. San Diego State in action with Nevada in the West, leads Nevada 30-16. That's in the first half. How many teams, we keep talking, Jason, are going to get in from the Mountain West? Utah State has the at-large case. They'll get in whether or not they get the automatic bid. Does the Mountain West get a second team? Probably. Is it a stretch that they're going to get a third team? Is it San Diego State? Is it New Mexico? Is it Grand Canyon? Is it Nevada? Who's the other team? Is there a third team? We don't know. Matt will talk about that in a little while with us as well. So,
nugget for you.
Yes, please.
Purdue, going back to Purdue, I watched them play, and they played really well. Braden Smith, who's been there forever, he is top 7 all-time in assists.
Yeah.
College basketball history.
He has the Purdue record, and I believe he's gotten the Big Ten record. But go ahead with your nugget.
And he's top 6 or 7 all-time, every conference in America.
They're trying to get him the all-time assist record, which there's a couple of players, including Chris Corchiani. You and I speak the language of Chris Corchiani from NC State.
You know who's number 1 is? He was number 2.
I'm trying to remember who 1 is. Who is number 1?
Bobby Hurley, Mr. Hurley.
Hurley at Duke. And Braden Smith has it within reach. He had to average.
He's like 50 or 55 or 60 behind.
He had to average like 7 assists a game, and he's still going to have like 10 more games to be able to get there for the all-time assist record. So we'll see if that's the case. And again, Purdue destroyed Iowa today, and they get Michigan next. We mentioned Santa Clara is underway as well. Tonight, Santa Clara playing Gonzaga at home in the West Coast Conference, and that's an early 11-7 lead. Score will change with Santa Clara and Gonzaga later tonight. But this is an interesting game for Santa Clara's at-large hopes, right, Jason? While we do this live.
All the projections I've seen this week, Santa Clara is one of the last 4 in, so people have given them enough respect. They've got them in the tournament today as an at-large. But again, you beat Gonzaga, you're going to bump up 3 or 4 more spots in that last 4, 5, 6, 7 in. So right now they're in, according to Lenardi and Mike DeCourcy and some other people. Yep. And you mentioned the Mountain West. San Diego State was the first team out I saw, and New Mexico was like the 3rd or 4th team out. So there's going to be a lot of jockeying with some of these West Coast teams these last month. And again, 4 weeks from tomorrow, TJ, we're coming back.
We get a bracket. Yes.
And there's going to be a bracket.
Utah State out of the Mountain West clobbered Memphis tonight again. They're in at large. Gonzaga's in at large. Some other Western teams still have work to do.
USC are hanging on.
Probably not for them at large. Don't know. You gotta fill out the full field. Yep. You got to have 37 at-large teams. Can UCLA and or USC get it? I don't know. Matt will talk more about that a little bit later on.
Our Miami of Ohio still undefeated.
More on them coming up. They did win on Friday night against Ohio University in the MAC. They're now 25-0. We'll talk more about the Red Hawks and their at-large chances in a few minutes. Why don't we mix in another one of my guys? He's hanging out late night Saturday night. Valentine's has gone well. He's already had a little romantic evening, and now it's time for some college hoops. Hello, Deshaun Tate. Here he is, Deshaun Tate, Mr. Tate's Take Hoops, joining us on college basketball coast to coast as we do this live tonight on this Saturday night of Valentine's Day. How are you, my friend? We always love it.
Outstanding. Thanks for you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys. And man, what a great show, sitting back and listening to you guys. And of course, the guests, the squatch and all that good stuff.
Oh, the squatch is something. But you know what? You bring it as well. We rely on guys like you to help us out on so many fronts.
Well, so TJ, you said something about a romantic evening. You didn't tell. I guess I can't complain too much. I'm sitting around with a 3-year-old who won't stop jumping on my couch and spilling cereal all over the place.
Well, there you go.
I can't complain too much. You did it twice in one setting.
This is what happens. Romance goes to a next level, and when romance goes to the next level, you end up with this in my household, and I've got nothing but my little Valentines here on the program. Where do you want to begin? Shall we begin with Duke? What about Duke from earlier today? They put it on Clemson at Cameron. Clemson had lost midweek to Virginia Tech. Duke had bounced back from the loss to North Carolina 7 nights ago on the last second three-pointer. They beat Pittsburgh midweek. Pittsburgh's not good. They kind of slogged through that game. What did you think of Duke today as we bring you
No,
in?
I know. I thought Duke was phenomenal, especially against a team like, Clemson. When you start looking at some of the most consistent and persistent teams over the course of the last handful of years or so, I get it. North Carolina went to a championship game in that span. A lot of people didn't think they would do it. We used to hearing their name. They didn't go to the tournament the year after. There hasn't really been a lot of consistent teams. Who has been that consistent team? It has been Clemson with some Elite Eight runs and some long tournament runs, and the way that they took care of Clemson, I think, especially considering the fact of the way that they do it, they don't have the same guys returning back every single year like the way that a program like a Clemson does. I mean, they're a whole new team pretty much for the most part themselves. They got some key pieces here and there as well, but they, sometimes there's a concern. They rely so much on Big Boozer, but I think the biggest concern for me going into the down the stretch that doesn't really look like it's been much of an issue for them has been that point guard position. Gonna have to find a way to get Caden Boozer in there to get him some run. Never really know when you're gonna need him to come in and kind of, to kind of come in and contribute to the team and what have you. But they're definitely a really good team and just really looking like the Duke of all. It seems like the way that things recycle, I don't care how much the rules change within the game and all these other things. The one thing that never changes is that Duke is at the top of the ACC again. And Duke is just continuing its dominance in college basketball. You can switch coaches for crying out loud when we thought so much might change with that. That hasn't, dropped off a bit. Coming off of a Final Four, recycling new players in, getting top players. But everybody knows when you're a program with those four letters across your chest, the biggest thing is being the one that's standing on the ladder with the scissors in hand in April.
Give me a thought, Deshaun, about the ACC in whole. Virginia much better and much more offensively oriented now.
Sure.
Not bouncing the ball for 34 seconds and hoping. They've got some
Yeah.
offense. You got a resurgence out of Miami's playing better, North Carolina,
Absolutely.
NC State showing some life. Just give me a sense
They
of this
are.
conference in general of being kind of back to one of the top 2 or 3 conferences in the country.
Yeah, I think they're getting to that point. I think 2 or 3 might be a little bit much, but I think that they're definitely taking steps to getting closer towards that. And the ACC, I remember being there at ACC Media Day earlier this year. They're very much aware of what's going on and the lack of success that they have been having collectively as a conference. I know that Louisville has kind of been
Right.
up and down this year. NC State is probably the one team I was asked at the beginning of the season, who's the one that you want to keep your eyes and ears, that you think that people should keep their eyes and ears open for throughout the season as we will get closer to March? I expected bigger things out of NC State. It's not the end of the world just yet, but I think that Will Wade will find a way with some of the transfers that he's got put in place.
Lost
They're
by
going to have to
40 at
hurry up.
Louisville earlier in the week.
I know. They're gonna have to hurry up and get a fire up under their belly to get things moving. Obviously, the Caleb Wilson thing changes things a little bit, but they're definitely taking steps slowly. But like you said, Miami is just one of those scary teams. Not the most surprising thing, especially considering the health status with Caleb Wilson and Miami just being with the things that Jai Lucas has done. They've even stolen a recruit or two away from Duke and got some really good transfers. A Michigan recruit that helped kind of put some things together from last year. He's a transfer as well. So they've got some really good things cooking in the ACC, but I'm afraid that we still might be another,
Year away.
360, yeah, probably 1 or 2 years away.
We'll circle back to Miami. North Carolina beat Pitt, went to mention Pitt again, today at home without Caleb Wilson. We don't know how long he's out. The conversation is, could he be back for the end of the regular season in the Duke game, back for the ACC tournament the following week? We don't know. How damaged are they long-term without him? How do you think the community views them? It's obviously damaging. How damaging?
I think it's very damaging. You start looking at some of the sets and the scheme, the system, the way that they run things. So much goes through Caleb Wilson, and now with Seth Trimble. Obviously, he was one that was injured, some time back, and you had Caleb in the standing in the gap at that time. But now the kind of roles are a little bit more reversed. Not the most ideal time that you want your star player. By the way, a top 5 lottery pick. By the way, a guy that I was like, man, they keep talking about AJ DeBansta. I'm almost starting to look at Caleb Wilson a little bit more closer, in this lottery. And how does it impact things for the future? I heard you guys earlier. I completely agree. Do I could see him maybe taking a little bit more time than maybe some feel like, he should hurry up and rush back, hurry up and get back, things like that, to kind of prepare himself for the long haul, talking about the NBA when June rolls around. But I think it is going to hurt them quite a bit. But yet still, Carolina is one of those teams that are going to kind of getting back to having that size, crashing the boards, being amongst some of the top rebounding teams in the country. I think that they're going to be right back in the mix of this thing. But Caleb Wilson obviously is the key piece that has to get back healthy first.
All right, listen, I'm not going to make you sit here and talk great things about
Let's do it.
that evil
Let's
that
do
evil
it.
maize and blue program,
Let's do
Michigan,
it.
because you're a Sparty guy. So let me couch it this way: the strength of the Big Ten overall right now, not just Michigan. We know they're really good, but I mean, you've obviously got a group of teams with Purdue and Nebraska and Illinois, Wisconsin,
and
your
Michigan State.
Spartans,
Yeah.
and Jason wants to have his Indiana team in the mix. But
Mhm.
you got a group of 5 or 6 teams up there. As I was saying to Dan Leach, you could make an argument for at least 4 or 5 of them to probably be an Elite Eight team. I'm not saying they all are going to be, but what about the strength of the Big Ten overall? Give me some assessment.
I think it's great, but this isn't the first time that we've kind of seen this movie or sang this song. There was a few years back that Michigan, or that the Big Ten was, considerably, by wide margin, the best conference and so on and so forth. Not that it's that, because I think that the Big 12 definitely has something to say about that. But the next thing you know, we get to the Sweet 16 of about 10 teams, 12 teams out of the Big Ten that got in, and Sweet 16, Michigan was the only one still standing. So we all know the same old story. Everybody's just waiting on the shoe to drop. The last Big Ten team to win a national championship was Michigan State over 25 years ago now at this point. And it's just about time to start putting up or shut up. It sounds good during the regular season, but nothing is won then except for regular season championships. And just by the way, I mean, for the record, let's just be very clear about what it is here. Michigan is the number one team in the country. They are the best team in the country. I think they're the deepest team in the country. They have everything. They have the size, they have the wings, they have the guards, they have the coach, they have the bench. You name it, they have it. The If I have to find just only one thing that concerns me about Michigan is they haven't been in one of these win or go home scenario, win or go home and stay home scenarios amongst each other as a group. They don't know how that feels together. You got a lot of guys that were imported from different programs as transfers and other things like that. But when it just comes down to on the floor, I think the Squatch was absolutely right. They're running guys out of the gym, and I mean, there's nothing. Sparty fan, Ohio State fan, any of the other 360 something odd teams that there is in college basketball, you got to give credit to Michigan right now because of what they're doing, because they're making it so that you have no other choice. Like them, love them, hate them, anything else in between. Michigan is taking care of business right now, and they're putting an exclamation point on things.
30-point win today, which, what did we say? That's the 10th
10.
30-point win, Jason. There has not been a team win 10 games by 30 or more since Duke won the title in 2001. So that's kind of scary. And I agree with you. We are not crowning them, but I mean, you would have to really, really put on a great performance in March to knock this team out, is what it looks like. Somebody's going to have to do that. And I like what you said about they haven't been through the one and done thing of the NCAA tournament, but the same thing can be said about Arizona. And now we've seen Arizona lose a couple of times. The same thing can obviously be said about Duke. These are basically all new players that Shire has. They haven't been through it either. So it's going to kind of be new and different. The only ones that are up at the top would be like a UConn, a Houston, a Florida, a Purdue. Deshaun, follow up on, is that experience of Final Four, Gator national title last year? UConn's got a couple of holdovers from the national title teams. How valuable is that for those, that kind of group that I mentioned of Florida, UConn, Houston, Purdue?
It is, but I think that the thing that Michigan has that maybe some of the other teams don't. Maybe not some of those more experienced teams that you're talking about, Florida and some of the others like UConn and so forth. But some of these teams like Duke or maybe even Houston, who does bring back some experience, but so much of its success so far this season that we've seen has been predicated based off of a freshman guard. When you go back and look at these there hasn't been another national champion that has been predicated based off of his freshmen since we've seen probably Duke over 10 years ago or something like that. While this is very fresh to the group of Michigan roster players, they all also have experience within college basketball. It's a lot of
Right, right.
transfers, not a lot of freshmen.
They're
It is a
older.
lot of transfers. They're
They are
older
older.
and they play older and they're mean and they're tough and they're nasty and they express that athleticism. They're not going to beat every single team. I know it feels like it. They're not going to beat every single team by 30 and 40. But I think that the plus side of that, too, is that they know how to win close games. We've seen it against TCU. We've seen it against Wake Forest. I think they beat Penn State by a point. They know how to take a big lead, drop a lead, which we never seem to see them do against Michigan State. Michigan State's come all the way back, take the lead, and then they go ahead and put the exclamation point on that. We just saw it earlier this week against Northwestern on the road, too. So they've shown some things about themselves, some real bravado to show why they're a real contender. I think there's only, in my opinion, when it comes to winning a national championship, I get it, albeit very early in the season, still with a lot of basketball left to be played. I think and I've been rolling with Houston all year long. I haven't seen nobody that's going to come close to that. I didn't feel confident about Arizona and some of the hiccups about Michigan. I think that Michigan has played themselves in that position right along with Houston as the front runners, tier one, top two national championship contenders in my book right now.
All right. Anything
Deshaun.
else? Anything else that we did not cover here before we scoot along? We talked some ACC. We talked some Big Ten. You touched on some of the top teams. Anything else that strikes you, Mr. Take Hoops?
Outside of when is Miami, Ohio kind of going to get their respect a little bit? I'm not sure there's anything they can do to really be taken serious, but I do think it'll be really interesting to see what these polls look like in the next 48 hours because you had so many teams that took a loss this week. I mean, obviously, we start, having conversations about Illinois took two back to back. Arizona just took their second one of the week. Gonzaga's just feel like they're not really playing anybody, even though they didn't take losses. Kansas had a big win. They ended up with a loss. Someone else had Purdue. There's so many teams. I think that when you start trying to figure out how you're going to rank these teams, then even more so going a step beyond that is how are they going to seed, some of these teams? Where does the love get shown for some of these teams? I think it'll be really interesting because every time it feels like that we've had a team that looks like they're ready to take the next step, they end up taking a loss to go along with it. Texas Tech has beaten what, 3 top 10 teams so far this season. Wisconsin, I think, has beaten, while we don't even have conversations much about them, they've beaten 3 top 10 teams this
They're
season.
the
as
only
well.
team to beat Michigan.
Exactly.
They beat Illinois at
That's
Illinois
right.
in overtime. Now
Michigan
I'm sorry,
State
but they
was another
whacked your
one.
Spartans last
Yeah,
night. I mean,
yeah.
how big of a brawl is this Big Ten tournament in Chicago going to be with
Big,
what looks
no,
like it's shaping up, how it's shaping up?
I would say big time. And there is no guarantee for Michigan in any tournament or anything. And we even
Right.
see that teams probably don't necessarily, I won't say lose on purpose, but don't always give it their all, risking injuries and things like that for a conference tournament so that they can prepare themselves early for an NCAA tournament. But I was going to say the last thing here, though, too, is some of the teams that are on the upward trajectory and it feels like that they haven't lost in a minute, maybe took some losses earlier on in the season, kind of turning things around. St. John's is one of those teams. They're on a streak right now. They're getting hot. Florida's starting to turn around and look like the Florida that we thought that they were going to be at the beginning of the season. Arkansas is putting it together late, ironically and coincidentally enough, with all the freshmen and everything Coach Cal brings to the table. You're never going to hear the end of his mouth about that. So I think that there's just so much here to really consider. This will be, and I promise you, this will be one of the best March Madness postseason tournaments that I think that we've really seen in a long time because you're going to get so many different elements of so many great brands and style of basketball. I think this is just fantastic. I can't wait to celebrate with you guys here over the course of the next 60 days.
What is
Jason? Anything else? Go ahead, real quick.
Yep. You mentioned we put Miami of Ohio 25-0. What is their margin of error? Could they lose in the semifinals of the MAC tournament and still make it?
I don't know. On the road that they're going right now, I mean, I feel like
Because
yes.
Akron's the team that could get them.
Yeah,
Akron
yeah.
could get them.
Akron can. Akron can. And I think, I mean, it's going to be tough. I think that, Miami can afford to lose a game. We start talking about more than one, we're having a different conversation, but they still got the rest of the regular season to play out. And I think the impressive thing about them is we can say whatever we want about teams, but when you got that big, target and that bullseye on your back, that makes things a little bit different. They've squeaked away a lot of wins so far this year, but the main thing is that they've added a number to the left side of the result column, and that's really all that matters. They're finding a way to win games, and that's what good basketball teams do.
Listen, I always love the insight of Deshaun Tate. We're going to follow up on the Miami point in a couple of moments and all else that went on. Tate's Take Hoops is where you find him on social media. Also find him on the Locked On podcast if you love the NBA and the Atlanta Hawks podcast that you do for them. What else can we plug, Mr. Tate's Take?
Give me a sense. I know Dame Lillard came off the Achilles thing to win the three. What'd you think of the dunk contest tonight? Is it worth even watching? Give me a quick 30-second synopsis.
I can't say I love it, especially because Jace Richardson, son of Jason Richardson, didn't do as well. But I'll tell you guys these two last things. One of them being about tonight. Go and look at the 4 dunks put up on his Instagram and I believe on Twitter that Mac McClung said that he would have done if he was able to participate on tonight. Nobody was beating those dunks. Shocker. And the last thing is quick trivia question. I promise it won't take you long. There's one number, I guess technically 2 numbers. That's a hint. That Michael Jordan won, that he wore in the NBA besides 23 and 45. What number was it?
There's another number.
There's another number besides 23 and 45.
Did he wear a different number in an All-Star game? Did he wear another number? Okay.
He only wore one.
There was like one night where they didn't have his jersey, right? Did he wear 99 or something?
He didn't. It wasn't 99, but the story is correct. His jersey was stolen from the locker room prior to the game. He wore number 12. Fun fact. On February 14th of 1990 on Valentine's Day.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
36
years ago tonight, MJ's jersey got horked out of the Bulls locker room before the game.
Number 12.
And he had to wear it. Why did they have a 12 available? I would love to know that. That's an odd number to have available. You would think like double zeros, obviously, always available or something like that. But that's crazy. And it happened
32 years ago yesterday.
Okay.
The famous Calipari
John Chaney argument.
How many years ago yesterday?
The problem is Deshaun was in diapers when John Chaney was trying to beat up John Calipari in the UMass Temple aftermath.
What year was that?
1994. Right before Calipari. Calipari took UMass to the Final Four a couple of years later. Of course, Temple was all around the Final Four with Mark Macon. They didn't get to the Final Four. They were the Elite Eight,
Mark Macon, yeah.
And John Chaney was ready at almost 70 years old to brawl with John Calipari 32 years ago. Yes, believe it or not.
Wow.
Listen, love the nostalgia. Tate's Take Hoops to find the takes on Twitter, etc. And let us bother you again as we go on here for the month of March, etc. Deshaun Tate, and head towards the Final Four in Indianapolis. Thank you.
Good luck with cereal cleanup. Good luck with the cereal.
Back to duty with the little woman. Daughter named Breslin. Tell Breslin to get into bed. Good night, Deshaun. And daughter named Breslin after the Breslin Center.
See you, buddy.
How about that for Deshaun Tate?
That's a good nugget there.
There's some more good nuggets. All right, we got several things to get to here, including the St. John's Providence problems. Matt Zimick will be in the bullpen here and will join us in a few moments. Stand by for his insight on the Western basketball. By the way, the latest is Santa Clara and Gonzaga. Santa Clara leads 36-35 late in the first half. West Coast Conference game. Gonzaga right now 12-1 in the West Coast Conference. Gonzaga is 13-1. How about that? up at the top. Gonzaga beat Santa Clara earlier in the year at Gonzaga. We'll keep an eye on that game. San Diego State leads Nevada 36-25 in the Mountain West in San Diego as we do this live on college basketball coast to coast. Let me give a couple of the other finals. Virginia did beat Ohio State tonight in Nashville on the neutral floor, 70-66. Big win for the ACC for credibility. Damaging win for Ohio State. Damaging loss for their at-large hopes. Arkansas beat Auburn 88-75 tonight. Arkansas battling with Florida up at the top of the SEC. They'll play in about a week. Florida and Arkansas. Also, from earlier tonight,
Vandy beat A&M.
Vanderbilt has won tonight over Texas A&M. What else from the night? Utah State beat up on my Memphis Tigers 99-75 tonight. Utah State looks like the real deal out of the Mountain West as one of the top teams. They're going to probably end up being on like the 5 or the 6 line, something like that in the tournament, even at large, maybe even a little better than that. We'll see on that front. So there's some of the results from the night. We need to tell you about a sponsor, by the way, as well. How about this? Have you gotten into, not just Jason, but the audience, have you gotten into the predictive markets? And our friends at Kalshi want you to know that it's legal to get into the predictive markets in all 50 states. It's not just odds makers putting out who they think will win in a game or a certain event. It's you. It's not just you, Jason. It's you, the audience, that participate in the predictive markets with Kalshi, whether that is who's going to win the national championship. Right now, most of the predictive market believes it is Michigan. However, there is a little bit of sentiment for Duke right now. Do you agree with that? You can get in on it at Kalshi right now. Who do you think is going to be the player of the year? Is it going to be Cam Boozer? That's what Kalshi believes, the predictive market from fans that are voting. However, is it A.J. DeBonsa? What do you think, Jason Powers, on the predictive market on player of the year? Is it Boozer? Is it DeBonsa? Is it somebody else?
I think it's DeBonsa right now. I think with Darren Peterson's up and down and not very available and seems to always have something going on with him, I think DeBonsa in the last 2 weeks has really stepped his game up. He's really playing well. I would give him a slight edge over Boozer and Peterson with a month to go.
Again, go to Kalshi. It's free to sign up. Use our promo code TJ Hoops. They'll give you $10 to invest on Kalshi if you disagree with some of these predictive markets. Again, TJ Hoops is the promo code if you're with us on podcast or on the TuneIn streaming show. Kalshi, you can wager if you want or just participate. Just vote. You don't even have to wager. Just vote on anything. Political elections, who's going to be the next president of the United States, the Academy Awards. When is the next name storm going to be in the weather? All kinds of different things. Olympics. Yes, there's predictive markets on the Olympics, on the hockey, on the figure skating, etc. Kalshi is the place to go. It's legal in all 50 states. To go and participate and use our promo code TJ Hoops, all one thing, TJ Hoops, plural, on Kalshi. They're a proud sponsor of college basketball coast to coast, and we appreciate that. All right, we got one more thing to go over here before we get to Matt Zimick, our Western Bureau Chief, in a couple of moments. That is the St. John's Providence, I'll call it melee from earlier, whatever you want to say, from earlier in the day, the brouhaha, the brawl. Not punches being thrown, but about close to it. If you're not aware of this, this is what happened in the second half of the game. It involved Bryce Hopkins, a former Providence player who's now a St. John's player. The crowd had been heckling him throughout the game. There was some chirping during the game, and then this happened on a fast break. Let's take a look, and we will react to it coming up.
Storm. Hopkins running the floor. Hopkins, he is whacked. Hard foul. Hopkins springs up, and it is on the baseline. Powell just took a swing. It's not good. There were elbows flying everywhere. And this is going to take a while to unravel. We might get some ejections here.
BA, in that first game in the Garden, you had a dust-up between Powell and Ejiofor in front of the Providence bench. And then that right there, not the kind of play you want.
All right, so a couple of things, obviously, from this. The video, again, courtesy of Turner, TNT, and the Big East. You heard Grant Hill there with Brian Anderson make reference that Powell, the player from Providence, had been a problem in the previous game with St. John's with taking a cheap shot at Ejiofor, one of the other St. John's players. So the officials, and you're an official, so obviously you're going to weigh in on all of this. The officials have to be aware of that. And then we're going to put the photo back up again here on this. Here is the photo of Powell grabbing Bryce Hopkins around the head, Jason Powers, on a hard foul, not even playing the ball. He was ejected from the game as he should have been. He'll be automatically suspended by the Big East for the next game, and he may deserve 2 or 3 games for what he did. You would give him 5 right now?
That is just, you can't have that. I don't care any level of basketball. There was zero effort to play the ball there. He was trying to hurt the guy. Apparently, you can be assured there was some history between those two when Hopkins was at Providence. Probably that's a 5-gamer to deter that from ever happening again. You can't.
I don't disagree that you got to drop the hammer here as we talk about the St. John's situation. And at that point in the game, Providence was winning the game by 1. And because of all the ejections, so there were 2 Providence players. You saw Sellers, the other player on the video. He was pushing and shoving. He got thrown out. And they ejected 4 reserves from St. John's that came off the bench towards what was going on. You can't do that.
Give them one more game, too. You got to give them one more.
They probably will. And again, for Powell, he probably is looking at multiple games. Might they suspend Kim English, the coach? Because later in the game, there was another player that ended up hitting Ejiofor and getting a flagrant 2 foul, and he got thrown out of the game. There was a second incident later in the game. It was just ugly. It was ugly there today, and maybe Kim English is looking at a suspension from Providence. St. John's eventually won the game. They made the free throws. They got a 3-point shot. They got control of the game. They went on to win the game. That's 11 straight wins for St. John's, but everybody's talking about what will the punishment be for Providence here.
You've got to, if you're the Big East here, you've got to make a statement on this. You cannot let a guy sit 2 games for this. Is 4 games minimum. I'd say 5, which that takes you almost to the end of the regular season. You can't have that. You can't
send the message.
Yeah, you have to.
Can't have that.
Especially with a team, I hate to say this, that's not very good either. Now, if this team was St. John's and it was flip-flopped, you probably still, but you have to send a message to the bad teams. You can't be trying to do this stuff. And
Rick Pitino said after the game, and obviously he's a former Providence coach. It's long ago. It's almost 40 years ago. He took him to the Final Four in 1987 at Providence. He said this crowd was focused on the wrong thing today against Bryce Hopkins and his ire. Again, Hopkins tore his knee up 2 seasons ago, transferred within the conference to St. John's. But that was not basketball. That was not a basketball play in that instance. And again, I come back to, are they going to hold the coach accountable? Stay tuned on not having your own team under control. Speaking of under control, this guy helps us stay under control. Let's go to the Western Bureau Chief. Matt Zimick, live on a Saturday night on college basketball coast to coast. He would always restore order whenever, in any situation, on the court or off the court. Good evening. How are things? You want to weigh in on that, on the St. John's melee there? That's Big East, kind of outside of what we normally have you begin with, but you want to weigh in on that whole situation and what should be done? Welcome.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, as always. That still photo, basically just grabbing his face right there with Jason, it's got to be 5 games. It can't just be 1 or 2. Like 5 games at this stage of the season, that's a significant chunk of what's left. Yeah, it has to be a 5-gamer, totally.
And again, it mars that St. John's is rolling. They've won 11 games in a row, but all the talk is about this after the game, and we'll see what the Big East does or does not do. Listen, I always love putting the buffet in front of you. Where do you want to begin tonight? You can go Western basketball if you want, or you can go what we saw earlier in the day with Michigan rolling. Iowa State's win over Kansas was impressive. Duke is rolling. Texas Tech upset of Arizona tonight. The buffet is yours. Partake.
How
Go.
many words did you write up for the UCLA beatdown? How many words were typed?
Yes, with Michigan. Yes. Go ahead.
Well, it was a 2-point game at halftime, and it's amazing how, Michigan is really the 2017 or 2016 Golden State Warriors in the college ranks. Like, there's always a 17-3, 15-2 run. Michigan was down 13 in Northwestern several minutes in the second half earlier this week. Wins by 12. Like, it's just, and they make something very difficult look very easy. And so, Michigan, 16.5-point favorite, and you're thinking, okay, Michigan's up only 2 at the half. So if you have a UCLA plus 16.5 ticket, you're looking pretty good. Nope. Michigan
doesn't matter. Right.
They just turn on the afterburners. So UCLA squarely on the bubble, USC squarely on the bubble. They're right near the cut line. If there's good news for those teams, it's that Ohio State lost to Virginia, because USC and UCLA are both battling Ohio State on the Big Ten bubble. So it's good that Ohio State did not get a quality win against Virginia. And then you guys mentioned it briefly. Santa Clara is trying to play its way into the field tonight against Gonzaga, and that's been an up and down game. It's been an offense first game. We'll see if the defenses can find a foothold in the second half. Santa Clara led 24-19 midway through the first half. Gonzaga punched back. It's been a kind of a seesaw game, a very entertaining game. So USC and UCLA, they need Santa Clara to lose that one. San Diego State leading Nevada, also right on the bubble.
Yep.
Like, these teams, there's not a lot of margin here. When I say right on the bubble, it basically means you're in last 4 in or first 4 out territory. That's what I mean when I say squarely on the bubble. Near the bubble or on the bubble can be a little bit different, because, like, you can be on the good side, you can be on the bad side. San Diego State and New Mexico both right on that bubble. So there's no margin for error for the Aztecs as they host Nevada tonight.
While we roll through what we've seen, including Western teams, how about Texas Tech winning in Tucson? ESPN's College Game Day pregame show was there early in the morning. The game was earlier tonight. It was an overtime game. Big shot after big shot by the Red Raiders to win in OT, and this is back-to-back losses now for Arizona. Welcome to conference play and how tough the Big 12 is. I'm saying that. Matt, what are your thoughts watching that game tonight?
The main story, Koa Pete, big, strong freshman made such a difference for Arizona in the paint, on the glass. He gets injured. Arizona looked less. Arizona looked like less of a team, less of a force with Pete on the pine with his injury. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's affected by that. So Arizona finally with some adversity this season. It's going to be really fascinating to see how this team deals with it. Still in an excellent position for a number 1 seed. Like, it's going to take a lot to push Arizona off the 1 line. But, any change to the flow, the continuity that Tommy Lloyd has established with this roster, any disruption, no guarantees you're going to get it back. Like, we are in the middle of February. We just have 4 weeks until Selection Sunday. If the train gets derailed, no guarantees you're going to get right back on. And as for Texas Tech, I'm going to be so interested in the seed that the Red Raiders get. Do they get a 3? Do they get a 4? Like, if Texas Tech is a 4 seed, man, I do not want to be the number 1 seed in 16 for a number 4 seed as good as Texas Tech. I know that much.
And Matt, the point we've talked about with Arizona for a couple weeks now, inability to shoot the 3-point shot. 4 of 16 tonight, only 4 made threes. Teams are going to pack it in and make Arizona shoot it over the top, and they've not been able to do that.
There's no question. That's how they're going to be defended, and at some point, you're going to have to make a few shots. Now, it's kind of interesting. Previous Arizona teams, we would talk about Caleb Love shooting too many threes, and this team doesn't want to shoot threes. But to a certain extent, you're going to have to make at least a few to keep defenses honest. No question about that.
Love Matt's insight on all fronts. What about Iowa State earlier in the day? Big bounce back. Lost to TCU midweek. and then they turn around and they beat Kansas decisively today, bombing in the 3-pointers. Now they will play Houston, by the way, Monday night. What a brawl the Big 12 is. But a big win for Iowa State in that mix with Kansas, with Arizona, with Houston, with everybody up at the top of the Big 12.
Pretty clear that Iowa State was looking ahead to this Kansas game when it played TCU. So Iowa State, at home in Hilton, giving it its best shot against Kansas. Kansas overachieved, without Peterson, beating Arizona anyway. There was a sense that the Jayhawks were kind of punching above their weight a little bit. So not too surprised by this result and how it came about. My broader takeaway is just that the Big 12 is the best conference in the country. We've seen Michigan State.
You think it's better than the Big 10?
You've talked to Deshaun Tate's Take Hoops about Michigan State. Like, Michigan State has fallen off. Illinois has struggled a little bit. And you could say that, hey, well, Wisconsin's rising and some other teams in the middle are rising, and Purdue's kind of getting its fastball back. That's a noteworthy development. But I think overall, the top 4 teams in the Big 12, I'd put them up against the top 4 in the Big 10. Like, you've also seen Nebraska kind of regress, run into reality a little bit. I would take the top 4 in the Big 12 over the top 4 in the Big 10. And that doesn't mean I'd take necessarily Arizona over Michigan. Michigan looks really special. But in terms of like the 4 best teams in any conference, I think the Big 12 has that, with Iowa State, Houston, Arizona, Texas Tech, like Kansas might be your 5th best team. That's deeper at the top than the Big 10 is.
And you've got BYU at 6 or 7 that with Devonta on any given night can score 35 and win a tournament game by himself.
Yeah, so they were in trouble tonight while we talk about them. Richie Saunders got injured. Jason, I don't know if you're aware of this, Matt. I don't know if you're aware of this either.
Yep.
Richie Saunders got hurt in the first minute of the game with a leg injury, never returned in the game, and it's unclear how long he's going to be out. And BYU really struggled with Colorado tonight. How damaged is BYU in the Big 12 with what you just laid out, with how good the teams are at the top? Is BYU going to hang in when they're still having to round robin play the likes of Kansas and Iowa State and Houston and Arizona and on and on?
They'll certainly need a healthy Richie Saunders, that's for sure. And who knows how that's going to work itself out. But even if Saunders gets healthy, BYU's had trouble defending. BYU's defense looked very creaky today against Colorado. It's hard for them to stop people, and I think that's what got appreciated and maybe overlooked. Devonta and his star power, so luminous, but where does BYU have that blue collar toughness that like Houston and other elite Big 12 teams do? The teams that are a few notches above BYU. BYU does not play that rugged ball, and they're retiring Jimmer Fredette's jersey
tonight.
We remember in 2011 when BYU had a highly seeded team hoping to finally lift the Cougars to their first Final Four. That's now 15 years ago. We're all getting older. That BYU team couldn't defend. That BYU team was up, played up and down basketball and just needed to light up opponents. Couldn't win a game in the mud, right? And this BYU team, very similar. If you drag BYU in the mud, you're going to beat them. Like Houston did that in Provo not that long ago. Other Big 12 teams have done that. So BYU doesn't have multiple ways to win that Arizona does, that Michigan does, that other top teams do. If BYU is not maxing out on offense, that's a very vulnerable team, and that's why BYU is probably going to fall in like the 6th seed category and is going to be kind of a floater in the bracket, but not one of the highly seeded teams out of the Big 12.
Are we undervaluing Gonzaga? I know the conference has been not great, but I mean, they've kind of been laying low here. They don't have the star power that they've had in years past. Are we undervaluing them a little bit?
They still have a key injury with Braden Huff, the scoring power forward, great outside shooter. He's out, and he's out indefinitely. and they have had trouble defending as well. They're having trouble again tonight with Santa Clara, so all that's the lead in. Do you agree? Are they in trouble come March, Gonzaga?
I mean, they have to have a healthy Huff. They're not going to go far without Huff. Now, I mean, Mark Few's a magician. The percentage of Sweet 16s that he makes is, right up there with the greats in the sports history, like a Dean Smith, the other icons of college basketball.
Krzyzewski, right.
Yep.
Roy Williams, on and on.
Master at making the Sweet 16. But if he doesn't have Braden Huff, like I mentioned this earlier in the week, TJ, that, Gonzaga does not have the superstar guards of the past, a Nemhard, a Suggs. There isn't that, climb on my back, put a cape on me.
Right.
I'm going to carry you to the promised land. The backcourt is not good enough to carry this team if Braden Huff's injured. They need Braden Huff badly for March Madness.
Then again, they're winning at the half for what it's worth at Santa Clara. If they win, it's a sweep of Santa Clara, and it makes them 13-1 in the West Coast Conference. So we'll see how far they can go in March. A couple of more minutes with you. Not surprising to me, Utah State clobbered Memphis tonight. They've clearly established themselves in the West. I think you can make the argument they're one of the best teams, maybe one of the best 2 or 3 teams in the West, including Arizona, including Gonzaga. They've looked good for a lot of this season. They've had a couple losses that make you go, UNLV beat them at home. But, I mean, they destroyed Memphis tonight for what it's worth in that game. And I'm saying that. What do you say about the Utah State Aggies here?
So it's Arizona 1, Gonzaga 2, and then it's pretty much up for grabs at 3. And, with UCLA and USC being bubble teams and, San Diego State and New Mexico being bubble teams, like it's legit. It's entirely legitimate to say that Utah State is the 3rd best Western team behind Arizona and Gonzaga. So, and you look at also the bubble carnage around the country today. Virginia Tech stumbling, Missouri stumbling, Stanford stumbling. Lots of the bubble today, February 14th. Teams that had a chance to really solidify their position in the field, for the most part, they lost. Miami was an exception. Miami really seems to have solidified its place in the field with what it did, but you also have UCF losing to West Virginia. That drags the Knights down toward the bubble. There's so much clutter on the bubble that Utah State, with what it's doing, looks pretty comfortable. Like, there's now a cushion. There are now several teams near the cut line, and Utah State is moving above, like a jumble of 7, 8, 9 teams that are near the cut line. Utah State is looking pretty safe right now.
All right. And again, there's still more to come in that conference, including on the neutral floor. Do they get a second team? Probably. It's a stretch to think there's 3 teams that get in from the Mountain West, but stay tuned. And Jason and I, we plug away. Jason and I will be out in Las Vegas for that Mountain West tournament.
They got to get to 34 at large somehow.
They do, and you're going to have a group of about 5. You're going to have a group of about 5 teams, maybe 6 in the Mountain West. Put them in a box and throw it up on who wins the tournament on the neutral floor. And we love that in Las Vegas.
So the Mountain West is not going to get more than 3. If the Mountain West is going to get 3, what has to happen is New Mexico or San Diego State needs to beat Utah State in the regular season, so they get that resume win in the regular season. The team that doesn't, New Mexico or San Diego State, then wins the Mountain West tournament, and Utah State gets an at-large. That is how the Mountain West gets 3 teams.
And I'm going to give you a game next Friday night that's going to have some bearing on some of these bubble teams. VCU at St. Louis. St. Louis 12-0, VCU 11-2. If VCU can win that game,
VCU
it helps.
Very much
VCU
in the at-large.
Have to win that one to get a second team from the A10. Yep.
Very true. Anything else that we left out here, Matt Zimick, or are we good? I always love your insight. You gave us plenty. Anything else that struck you Saturday or this weekend?
St. Mary's down a bucket to Pacific at halftime. St. Mary's is not a lock for an at-large. If Gonzaga or Santa Clara win the West Coast Conference tournament and St. Mary's has to go into the at-large pool, St. Mary's loses this game to Pacific. St. Mary's is right on the cut line with no guarantees. So that is another game to watch for the West Coast Bureau Chief of College Basketball Coast to Coast.
Love it.
Last thing, is Mick Cronin plotting his exit from Westwood? Is this just a matter of how quick he can get out of there in this offseason?
What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, if you're the coach at UCLA, you should want to continue to coach there, but like it's not working, right? It is not panning out. So
here's a big thing. If I can interject, they don't have money. They don't have NIL money, which is a big detriment right now in this world of if I don't have the extra 5 to 7 million or more, I can't get the 2 players I want to get. But if I'm at another school that has that extra 5 to 7 million, they come with me to that school. You hate that it's become transactional almost like that. But how big a factor is it, Matt?
Syracuse could do a lot worse than Mick Cronin.
True.
Let's put it there. Let's leave it at that.
And there's probably a couple of other places that he might fit in. We'll see. Then again, it's Los Angeles, but they have money problems. It's well documented there, and it's one of the reasons why, for example, Matt knows this. Chip Kelly has been open about this. Yep. Don't have the same budget. Don't have the same NIL. I'm not going to have it hung around my neck when we take losses because of this. I'll go somewhere else and do something.
Be an OC
and see what else is happening. Listen, Matt, great stuff. Thank you on Valentine's night here. We appreciate
Arizona Statehood Day.
Yes.
Arizona became a state in 1912 on this day.
On this date, who knew on Valentine's Day?
I got to ask you an Olympic question before we get you out of here.
Oh, really? Okay.
Did Chalk and Bates get screwed by the French judge?
Absolutely. I can answer that.
I could make up an answer, but frankly, I have not been paying attention.
He hasn't been following the
Seahawks won the damn Super Bowl.
The Seahawks won the Super Bowl last week. The ice dancing is not on his radar. Mrs. Rives was so angry the next morning that she wasn't speaking to anybody for about 30 minutes because the French judge robbed the American mixed pair figure skating tandem. So the figure skating is ongoing. We got the Winter Olympics. We got basketball. We got all of it. Matt Zimick, have a great rest of the weekend. We'll read you at Trojans Wire on the USA Today website. We always appreciate your insight with us on college basketball coast to coast. Thank you.
Only 2 weeks until March. It's flying by.
I know. Crazy. 4 weeks to Selection Sunday. Thank you, Matt. See you, brother. There he goes tonight. Okay, so you were interesting with a debate about Miami of Ohio. And on the podcast feed, as well as on the YouTube page of College Basketball Coast to Coast, I put up an interview with Chris Daubertine, who we love from bloggingthebracket.com. This was a Friday interview to kind of preview the weekend. And so we laid out some scenarios, some different stuff. He warned, watch out for Arizona to take some lumps and take some losses. Now they have lost again. He was saying this Friday before the loss tonight to Texas Tech because Arizona's got to go on the road and play two or three tough road games. All right, so Chris was kind of laying all this out about who are the top teams, etc. Well, we went to the subject matter about Miami of Ohio and about their lack of wins and what is their at-large case. So we went over that. So better than me explain it, hear Chris in his own words as we discussed whether Miami of Ohio on the 25-0 start has enough at large right now as part of our coverage here on College Basketball Coast to Coast. Here you go. Do not have an at-large case, correct? If they don't have the automatic bid, they are in trouble, correct?
That is correct. They have, going through all the teams, and, I go and I have a spreadsheet with, all the metrics for all the teams that are in that large hunt, and then, for the teams that are going to have auto bids in terms of figuring out kind of, as a guide to where I should see them and where I need to look a little bit closer to see, where the matchups are. And Miami rates out as an 11 seed, but that's when you factor in them being in the field and the field being set. If you factor in them needing an at-large, they're not even close. They do not have, especially their predictive metrics, just do not like them. And then, of course, the result-based metrics.
as we sit here right now, they have not played a team in the top 60 of the net at the moment.
Yeah.
Going into Valentine's weekend, they haven't played a team, much less beaten a
No.
team in the top 60. That matters, Chris. Illuminate it one more time.
Yeah, and the other thing is they have 3 non-Division One wins, so that you take those out of the equation entirely. And this is a squad that I think, yes, it's a great story, but they're going to have to do it because they just do not have an at-large worthy resume, given what we know
Be
over
your
the
own
committee's years.
Be your own committee. Make sure you get the automatic bid. They can take a loss here before they get to Cleveland in the MAC tournament, but make sure you get the automatic bid because you're going to have a very nervous next 20 hours or so when the names come up if you don't have that automatic bid if you're Miami. Great story right now. Let's see if it continues for them. So that was Chris Daubertine with me.
Wow. Will that committee have the guts if they have one loss in the semifinals or the final of that tournament to keep them out with the public outcry that we will hear?
You know it will be there, but their response is going to be, you didn't play anybody when you had a chance to go schedule some games. You had a chance. And I know Travis Steele is getting a lot of love, the coach. He was on the ESPN Game Day pregame show this morning after the win last night. They're having a blast with this. But Travis Steele could have gone and taken a bye game against any number of programs in the Big Ten. He used to be the Xavier coach. He could have played Richard Pitino and Xavier potentially. He's got relationships, previous stops at other coaching stops where he could have gone and played a game, and numerous other MAC programs played multiple bye games to help their strength of schedule, and he did not. So you choose to take that risk. And they ultimately, that committee is not going to care about you loading up on wins against teams beyond like the top 100 in the net, teams that aren't in the NCAA tournament. They're going to care about
one-loss regular season, TJ Rives.
But it comes down to who did you play? They have stressed it over and over and over again.
Losses. They will have had one loss.
But the argument would also be made that you could put 100 other teams that are talented and qualified on that same schedule, and how many losses are they going to have? So
I think as long as they get to the semifinals of that tournament, and that's their only loss.
I'm telling you, I like that. I like that scenario to help them, but I'm telling you, on February 14th, they don't get the automatic bid, they're not in. Wow. But it would be a bigger debate if they're all the way to the semifinal of the championship game on that championship weekend. That is March the 14th is the night of the MAC title game. If we're sitting in Las Vegas, you and me, having worked the Mountain West Conference title game that afternoon, and the MAC title game is going on that night, and Miami of Ohio has not won the automatic bid, it's going to be a very nervous 20 hours or so until the selection show.
All right, I got to ask one more thing before we get out of here.
Yes.
News finally was clarified. We finally found an Alabama judge who said, no, Bediako, no more, no mas. Your thoughts on that decision, and should it affect Alabama?
Hey, well, so there's two tracks. The first thing is the NCAA said all along, we're going to prevail here. He's ineligible by our rules. It's black and white. If he left his name in the NBA draft and he got drafted, he can't come back to college basketball. Say what you want about other international players who are paid professionals. Say what you want about them being drafted and never being NBA players, never having played in the NBA. But the rule is black and white. If you're a college player and you leave your name in and you're drafted and you want to come back, the answer is no. So it did not surprise me that it got overturned. From what I have been told by multiple sources, I have talked to a source in Alabama. I have talked to a source close to the situation that knows what the thinking is going to be from the NCAA. They're not inclined to take away the victories, those three victories. It would not surprise me if they change their mind and say, we warned you, Alabama, we will take these wins away. You used an ineligible player. The judge has now ruled in our favor. He's ineligible. So, but apparently they're not going to do that. And that helps Alabama's strength of schedule. It helps their strength of victory. It helps everything. They were going to be an NCAA tournament team anyway. But it's just
versus
interesting.
a team like Auburn, who they beat with
Right.
Bediako, team like that might be right there.
They had a couple of other wins. They won 3 games with him.
Yep,
So stay tuned on that. All right. So the latest as we do this live is, again, they have gone into the second half now, tied Gonzaga and Santa Clara at 49 apiece. Game that is much bigger for Santa Clara's at-large hopes.
For sure.
They're right now a half game in front of Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference. They did lose to them in Spokane earlier in the year. And then you've got the West Coast Conference tournament also going on in Las Vegas the weekend before we get there for the Mountain West tournament. So let's see what happens with Santa Clara. You know that result if you're hearing us on Sunday after the fact, on this video show, on podcast, on the TuneIn Live channel. You already know that result. By the way, San Diego State has pulled away from Nevada. They lead 56-41 with about 8 minutes left.
Yep.
That's a resume protector for San Diego State tonight. So what else do we have that we have not covered? How about your Indiana Hoosiers? Jason is an Indiana grad school guy playing Illinois tomorrow.
Gotta win the game.
What about that tomorrow? It's at Illinois. Hoosiers need it for the at-large hopes.
You absolutely need the win here. You're gonna have a lot of 3-point shot shooting, and Wagler's gonna be a factor. If you're Indiana, you're right there close to the boat. You've got to win this game. You got to win some of these top 25 matchups that you're going to have down the stretch. So, you got to win the game.
Yeah, Big Ten is tremendous. How about this? We are here in the Tampa Bay area, you and
That team USF.
USF, South Florida. Dare I say that the Rives twins took an official on-campus tour at the University of South Florida earlier this week. They have gotten into the University of South Florida in Tampa. USF and Florida Atlantic rematch in Boca Raton tomorrow afternoon, Sunday afternoon. And USF having won the game in Tampa, leading the American Conference. But here again, we have a conference where it's probably only the automatic bid winner.
Right.
If you don't get the automatic bid, it's going to be tough for USF or Tulsa or anybody else at the top of this. So stay tuned on the Bulls. And the name Brian Hodgson, by the way, that name will be kicked around. It looks like Kansas State's going to get rid of Jerome Tang, their coach. It looks like Bobby Hurley will probably be out at Arizona State.
South Carolina.
If Syracuse makes a move on Adrian Autry, Red Autry, Brian Hodgson would be a very interesting name. He's a New York guy. He coached with Nate Oates at Buffalo in Western New York.
Okay.
Stay tuned on Hodgson somewhere besides Tampa Bay. Does he want to trade the warm weather of Tampa Bay for Syracuse, New York?
Oklahoma's going to be open.
So that's an interesting name. And we'll see what the Bulls do tomorrow. Anything else that we have left out tonight? I think we pretty well covered just about everything. Thanks to our guest, Dan Leach, with us from WHMI Radio in Detroit, longtime media member there, Deshaun Tate, Tate's Take Hoops, as well as Matt Zimick of the USC Trojans Wire.
President's Day Monday, a little holiday for some people.
Indeed. Long weekend here, Valentine's Day, President's Day. You got to love it. Anything else, Jason Powers? I always love your insight and your help. Are we good for another Saturday night?
Are you super excited about the 362 more days of the ESPN handoff for the Super Bowl?
Super Bowl. Let's just share this with the audience. We've got March, the mayhem of March with college basketball. We've got the Masters golf tournament.
Daytona tomorrow.
Daytona 500 is tomorrow. We've got things like the Kentucky Derby, the Indianapolis 500, on down the list, the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA finals. All of that happens before the NFL season ever begins. ESPN put a sock in it about the Super Bowl. It's 51 more weeks away.
Right.
You'll live while we talk about all the other stuff, including what we do here on College Basketball Coast to Coast, getting ready for March. So whether you found us on YouTube, on Twitter, CBB Coast to Coast is the Twitter handle, on Facebook, come find us on podcasts, Apple, Spreaker, Spotify. I remind you again here visually, if you're on the video show, go find us on podcasts. Find us on all the different outlets. Tune in, the Tune In channel, College Basketball Coast to Coast, with all of our streaming coverage and live games. We love all of it. Jason Powers, thank you. Thank you for all of the insight tonight. I think we're good. Have a great rest of the weekend.
We'll see you next week, boys and girls.
Love it. Love it. And we thank you for watching and listening on College Basketball Coast to Coast Live Saturday Recap Show.